Chicken. If you exercise, train, and eat meat, it's most likely you're going to be eating a whole lot of chicken. But what kind of chicken? What I want to talk to you about today is the different kinds of chicken that you can buy, and whether there's actually any difference. Certainly a difference in price, but is there a difference in the quality of the food, or perhaps the effect it has on your body? So I've been down to a local supermarket. Doesn't matter which particular supermarket you go to, you can go to whichever yours favourite. This one happened to be Tesco. It was the closest by. And I bought for us a organic free-range chicken, and I've also bought a traditional regular chicken. It's important to say that I haven't bought a caged chicken or a battery chicken. This chicken is a higher welfare chicken, and this one is an organic free-range chicken. I'll explain a little bit about the differences in those two in a second. What I really want to know is there a difference in the quality of the product? There's certainly a difference in the price. They're both about 1.8 kilograms. This higher welfare chicken is 1.79 kilograms, and the organic free range is 1.81. So they're very similar sized birds, so hopefully this is comparable. For the video, at least this first part, I've not actually cooked these chickens. These are directly from the supermarket. They are raw and uncooked. The reason I wanted to do this test with them being uncooked is that I don't want there to be any discrepancies between the two chickens due to cooking. This is as fair a test as I can make it. So what I'm going to look at is the difference in the quality of the product. So I'm going to wrap them here on the video, so it might be a longish video, but if you're interested in any kind of training and perhaps the health of your bones, muscles and ligaments, it is worth the time invested in watching this video. But it's up to you. You do whatever you want. Okay, so the first thing I'll do is unwrap the two chickens. You should remember that this one's going to be the organic one and this one will be the higher welfare one. I'll explain a little bit about what that means. Higher welfare really just means that the spatial requirements for how many chickens they can fit into a certain area is a little bit better than what it was when chickens were just put in cages, very cramped environments. But it's really not so much more than you'd think. I mean, traditional chicken if you will, is raised in about half a square foot per bird. So it's about 6 inches of space per bird. So literally the space the bird takes up. So if you imagine a massive warehouse or a barn full of chickens, you would not be able to see the floor. The higher welfare bird, you're looking at about 12 to 14 birds per square metre. It's really not that much space between the birds, but there is a little bit of space, so they can at least move to a certain extent. The organic free-range bird is massively different. This bird has between 2 and 10 square metres per bird, so this one can actually move around. So that's a key difference in the two birds. The other major difference is how the birds are fed. So your higher welfare bird, really, the only difference between this and a battery hen is the fact that it has a little bit more space. It's still fed medications, things like antibiotics that will, I suppose the major sort of like thing that happens when the birds are fed antibiotics is actually the growth of the chicken. It speeds up the growth of the chicken. So it's a way of making bigger birds faster, because I think these things only live to be about 7 to 9 weeks before they're taken to slaughter. Whereas the organic bird can't be fed any kind of medications like that, sort of like speed up growth and that sort of thing. The other thing is this bird here, the higher welfare bird, will be fed animal feeds to try and promote growth, whereas the organic bird lives off a more natural diet, so it will be grass fed, it will have things like it's encouraged to scratch and peck for worms and bugs. It doesn't sound particularly appetising, but what it does mean is the nutrient profile of this bird will be better. What I want to look at actually is the strength of the bird, and this will tally in with the kind of strength of an athlete or indeed a client of mine. Looking at this bird first of all, so I'm just going to remove do it this way around. We'll look at the higher welfare bird. This is the kind of bird where you're looking to probably have about 12 to 14 birds in a square metre. So on the sort of space of this table we'd have 14 birds, so you can imagine they're pretty close by. That bird isn't going to do much movement in its life. It's really going to be quite hampered in that way. The other thing is it's fed a diet that's perhaps not well tailored to its natural state. It's really a diet that's guaranteed to make the bird grow as quickly as possible and as fat as possible so that we have a higher weight earlier to sell as many chickens as possible. So it's not really designed for the welfare of the bird, despite the name that we have on the chicken here. So I'm just going to cut the strings that just keep its legs together, and if you're ever going to do this sort of thing, I advise you to wear gloves or do it with a cooked bird. I'm going to wash everything afterwards and definitely not going to be licking my fingers in between. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to see just how much force it takes to break the ligaments and the connective tissue in the leg of the chicken. So hopefully you can see this okay. So I'm going to do this just on one side, and hopefully if it works, that's great. If not, I'll cook the bird and see whether that helps. So I'm taking the bird here, and realistically, to do this, there's a little bit of pressure in there, and I think when I cook the bird, you're going to be able to see this better because you'll see the breakage in the skin. But that's the ligaments broken there, and you can see that leg is completely loose and free. That didn't take much effort whatsoever to do, and you can see that leg's all broken up now. The next thing that I'm going to do is compare that to our organic free-range bird. Now, what I'm expecting to see, I might not see this, but what I'm expecting to see is a difference in the strength of the ligaments and the connective tissue in the chicken that has had much more movement in its life, much more exercise in its life, but also a much better quality diet. So taking this bird, I think we did this leg on that chicken, yeah. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and you can actually feel already that there's more flexibility actually in the ligaments, so that goes a long way before I actually feel any resistance. Okay. Now I don't know whether you can see, and if you obviously rewind the video back, have a look how much more range of motion was on this bird compared to this bird. I'm getting to here and she's still not able to break. I didn't expect it to be this much actually, but okay. It's still not as broken. Right. Now, as to do this quite accurately, what I would do is I would probably attach maybe a force meter or a newton meter, or as someone suggested, like one of those baggage weighing sort of springs to try and break the ligaments, to actually test the force in a way that you could see was fair. Problem with that is, how do I actually attach it to the leg and break? You see how much force was required to break this. I can tell you now that it's at least twice as much force was required to break this leg as this leg. Hopefully if I do a cooked version of the video, you'll see the skin tear and the muscle tear, so actually I can take the leg off and then we can compare the two. So in terms of the strength of the ligaments and the structure, in an organically raised bird versus a higher welfare bird, there's much more strength in the ligament structures. So the quality of the proteins or the ligaments and the actual lean tissue in this is fantastically better than this chicken. There is a difference in price. I think this bird cost me about £8 and this bird cost me about £5. So there is a massive difference in the price. Both of them say they feed about 7 people. So realistically we're looking at just over £1 per portion on this one and probably just under £1 per portion on this one. Price wise, I think you should buy the best you can afford. If you can't find enough money for the organic free-range chicken, that's not a problem. Get the best chicken you can afford. The main point of this video is actually going to come down to these chickens are actually very representative of themselves. this first chicken doesn't move around so much. Sits around, doesn't do much exercise, eats a diet that's pretty crappy. And the strength of its ligaments and connective tissues is also pretty crappy. We have a look at this bird, which moves around. It has 10 times, more than 10 times the amount of space that this bird does, much more active, eats a much more healthy, organic, natural lifestyle, not on as many medications and all that sort of stuff, and its connective tissue is much, much stronger. What I want you to do is have a think about what your body is made of. If you supply your body with the best nutrition you can afford, and you do the most amount of exercise you can do, you can have a very strong body, which is going to be much less likely to be injured. If, on the other hand, you lead a very sedentary life, you don't do any exercise, and you just feed your body with crap, don't be surprised when your body starts to fail on you, and you have knee problems, back problems, and all that sort of stuff. Lots of people will spend a lot of money on driving around in a really nice car, but then complain about the price of good quality food. Well, what I would invite you to do is, rather than caring about people seeing you not driving a crappy car, seeing you driving a really nice car, have a think about the body that you're walking around in. It would be probably better to walk around in a not so crappy body. So have a think about it, you decide. If you want to do this yourself, my advice is try it with a cooked chicken, so you don't have to handle raw meat. But there's a massive difference in the connective tissue strength on one bird to the next. Give it a try. Okay, thanks for listening.